This is part 2 of the review. These are actually the even numbered problems, and we're gonna use a graph, and it's saying the following is a graph of y equals negative square root of x plus 2. What is the value of x when y is equal to 0? You can press a graph here, and if you want to type in the graph, you can. We have negative square root of x, and then of course you have plus 2, and it's saying what is the value of x when y is equal to 0. So when y is 0, you can even look at your table. So when y is 0, x will be 4. So the answer is 4. Now we have 0 equals negative square root of x plus 2. We subtract 2 from both sides. So we have negative 2 is equal to negative square root of x. Divide by negative 1, and we have square root of x equals 2. We're going to go ahead and square both sides, and we have x equals 4. So that will be our answer. So x equals 4. And you can also type in 4 here. Square root of 4 is 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Which of the following equations is equivalent? Now the word equivalent means that they're both going to be the same value. In other words, they both will give you the same x value. So we have x minus 2 is equal to the square root of 8 minus 4x. Let's go ahead and square the right side. And if we square the right side, we have to square the left side. So we have x minus 2 times x minus 2. And when you square a radical, you're going to have 8 minus 4x. Because remember, the index is 2, so they kind of cancel. So we have x times x, which gives you x squared. X times negative 2 gives you negative 2x. Negative 2 times x gives you negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 2 gives you positive 4 equals 8 minus 4x. And we have to make sure that we can simplify this to the best possibility. So you have x squared minus negative 2x minus 2x is negative 4x plus 4 equals 8 minus 4x. So if I add 4x to both sides, I have x squared plus 4 equals 8, since these cancel. So the best answer is B. Okay, we're going to go and do number 6 now. It says, if log base 3 of 2x minus 1 is equal to 2, what is the value of x? So once again, we're going to have to write the inverse. And to write the inverse, you need to know the base. In this case, this is the base. You need to know the exponent, and you need to know the answer. So the base here is 3. The exponent is 2. And we know that the answer is 2x minus 1. I went over this at the beginning of the semester. So now we're going to solve for x by just simply following the steps that we normally do, and then we'll have x. So 3 squared is going to be 9, and you have 2x minus 1, so you're going to add 1 to both sides. So you have 10 is equal to 2x, and then we're going to go ahead and divide by 2, so x equals 5. Now if you want to check this, all you have to do is go to your calculator, type in log. Of course, you know the base is 3. And then, of course, substitute 2 times 5 minus 1. And if we did it correctly, we should get 2 as our answer here. And we did. Okay? So this part of the review, we're dealing with logarithms, okay? Okay, here what we're doing is we're matching the equation with the graph. So make sure that you go to the graph part of the calculator, and all you have to do is type in negative parentheses 3 to the power x, and you know that is a exponential function. And by noticing we have a negative, you know that the transformation of the parent function is going to be a reflection over the x-axis. So we know that it won't be a or d since it's not a reflection over the x-axis. So it's going to be b or c, and your answer is b. You can also, just so you can verify, you can go to your table. And I do recommend that you do this on your during the test. So 0, -1, 1, -3, just several points, 2, -9, and that's going to match it. So, like I said, make your table. So we have 0, -1, it's right here. And then you have 1, -3, and then 2, -9. And so that tells you for sure that that's going to be the table. And that's a graph. Number 10, it says, what is the solution to the equation log base 2 of 5x minus 2 is equal to 3? So once again, we're going to write the inverse. And you're going to write it in exponential form. So you have 2 to the power 3 is equal to 5x minus 2. So you're going to go ahead and cube 2. So you have 2 to the power 3, which gives you 8. And you have 5x minus 2. And then you're going to go through the process of just solving the equation. So you're going to add 2 to both sides. So you have 10 equals 5x, and then the last step, divide by 5, so x equals 2. Now if you want to check it, go to your calculator, and all you have to do is substitute. So we have a log. We know that the base is 2, and we substitute 5 times 2 minus 3, and we want it to be equal to 3. And it should have, oh, I see what I did wrong. So control log base 2, 5 times 2 minus 2. And that gives you 3. Okay, so remember, for this type of problem, you need to write the inverse, which is the exponential form. Number 12, given the equation log base 2 of x plus 2 is equal to 3, which of the following statements is true? Go through the process of solving this. So we have log base 2, and then we have x plus 2 is equal to 3. So let's write the inverse. So we have 2 to the power 3 equals x plus 2, which gives us 8 equals x plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides, so x equals 6. So I think the answer, or I know the answer is 6, but to verify, let's go ahead and place into the calculator, substitute the value of x. We're dealing with base 2, and we said that x is going to be 6. We have 6 plus 2. And remember, we want the answer to be 3, and it does come out to 3, so answer is B. For this part of the review, we're factoring polynomials. So you notice here that we have x squared, parentheses, x plus 1 minus 9 times x plus 1. The common factor is x plus 1. So by me removing that x plus 1, that's what is called factoring. And what you're left with is you're left with x squared minus 9. Now we do know that x squared minus 9 is a difference of squares. Why do I know that? Because 9 can be rewritten as 3 squared. So to find the factors, it's x plus 1, x plus 3, x minus 3. So it says which expression shows a complete factorization. So your answer is C. Now B is not complete because you can still factor x squared minus 9. So this is not complete. For 16, it says which expression represents this completely flat factored, and we know that x plus 2 is a common factor in this polynomial. So we have x plus 2, we can factor that out. So you're left with x squared minus 16. And I know that 16 is a perfect square because 4 squared gives you 16. So you have x plus 2. Now you will have, it's a difference of squares, so what you're going to have here is x plus 4 times x minus 4. And this is factored completely, so your answer is C. B is not factored completely. Which binomial is a factor of the polynomial? Remember, I showed you a method how to factor this, especially if you have a leading coefficient that is greater than 1. You start by multiplying these two. 20 times negative 8 gives you negative 160. So let's rewrite this as x squared plus 27x minus the product of 2 and negative 8, which gives you negative 160. And you got to find the factors of negative 160, and I went ahead and did that earlier. So we have 32 times negative 5. 32 times negative 5 gives you negative 160, plus 32 plus negative 5 gives you 27. So you have x plus 32 times x minus 5. Now, originally we took out the 20, so you have x plus 32 over 20, and you have x minus 5 over 20. What I recommend you do is you simplify 32 over 20. So they have a common factor of 4. So it's going to be 8 over 5. And then we have 5 over 20. Common factor is 5. So it's 1/4. X minus 1/4. Now, since we have a 4 in the denominator in that second factor, that's going to be 4x minus 1. If we have a 5 in the denominator, we're going to go ahead and move it to the front. So you have 5x plus 8. So now the question is, which one will have, which is the binomial factor for this polynomial? It's going to be 4x minus 1. This was called the glide and slide method. This is what I showed you right now. What is the factored form of 2r cubed plus 24r squared plus 40r? You notice they are all divisible by 2, and they also have a common factor of r. So you're going to factor 2r. You're left with r squared plus 12r plus 20. And if you wanted to check if I did it correctly, all you would have to do is apply the distributive property. So now you need to give me the factors of 20, which is 2 times 10 gives you 20, and when you add them, you get 12. So it's r plus 2, r plus 10, and then you have 2r. So which will be the answer? The answer is B. You got to find the factors of 20 that will add up, and when you multiply them, you also get 20, so your answer is B. Okay, we're continuing with factoring. So what is the factored form of 3p cubed plus 27p squared plus 24p? And we notice that they all have a common factor of 3, and they also have a common factor of p. So it's going to be p squared plus 9p plus 8. And like I said in the previous example, if you wanted to see if I did it correctly, you would just have to multiply the distributive property and you'll get the original polynomial. Now we're going to factor or find the factors of 8 that will add up to give you 9, and you know that's going to be p plus 8 and p plus 1. So you're looking for the factor that has 3p. They all have 3p. The factor that has the answer has the factor p plus 8 and p plus 1, which gives you b. That's going to be the answer b. 24, we're going to simplify. So we have 3x cubed minus 4x squared plus 1. And you want to distribute the negative. I've done this before in class. You can write it vertically. So you have negative 3x cubed minus 4x squared. Sometimes writing it vertically, you're able to see it. Plus 2x minus 1. So that's a 0. This is a 0. So you have negative 8x squared plus 2x. So your answer is B. 26, what is the sum? And we have 3x squared y plus 4xy squared minus 3 minus 2y cubed plus 3, and I recommend writing it vertically. So we have x squared y, so you have x squared y plus 2y cubed, and then you have minus 4, and then just combine like terms. So we have 4x squared y plus 4x y squared. These cancel, so that's minus 1. So your answer is 4x squared y plus 4xy squared minus 1. So your answer is C. So writing it vertically does help you to put the terms that are alike together. We're going to talk about transformations. And yes, I'm going to let you use your chart. We have a cubic function. We have x to the third power. And we're going to go ahead and rewrite the new function. So we have parentheses x minus 3. And you notice when we type in the new function, it was shifted to the right. So when it's minus, it's going to shift to the right. If it's plus, in the parentheses, it's going to move to the left. So this minus is going to shift it to the right. So your answer is A. Once again, we have to describe the transformation. The cubic function y equals x cubed is changed to negative 2. So let me go to the tab button. Negative 2x to the third power minus 7. Now, the negative is going to reflect it over the x-axis. The 2 is a vertical shift, and the minus 7 is going to move it down. So you can't see that, but if you go to the menu and you adjust the window, what I'm going to say is negative, I'll say negative 20. And then I'll say 20. So once again, I'm going to adjust the menu, adjust the window. I'm going to say negative 20. And then I'll say plus 20. And you notice the graph, it does reflect and it does vertically shift. So we're looking for reflection over the x-axis, shift it down, and then vertical stretch at C. the cube root function, cube root of x, will change to the cube root of x minus 4. Minus 4, it's kind of like a universal type of transformation. Negative 4 is going to shift to the right. So it's going to be answer D. So let me show you using the calculator here. So I have cube root the index is 3, x, and it's x minus 4. So you notice it does shift to the right. Okay, so yes, I've been teaching you how to use the rules, but I would always verify with the calculator, especially on the tests. So 34, we're still talking about transformations again. We have the parent function is cube root of x. We know that 2 is going to vertically stretch. So if vertically stretched by a factor of 2, it's going to go down 3 units. So your answer should be A. And like I said, you always want to verify. So if you go to your tab button, that's the parent function. The 2 is going to stretch it. And I do want you to notice that the minus 3, a common mistake, is sometimes students put the minus 3 inside the radical. You got to make sure that the minus 3 is outside the radical. And when you press enter, you notice it went down. So your answer is A. Okay, we're still continuing with factoring. We have a polynomial that's raised to the third power. You want to find the common factor. In this case, it's x. So you have x squared minus 6x minus 5. Find the factors of negative 5, which is negative 5, which is negative 5 and 1, but that's not going to give you the correct factor. And negative 5 and negative 1 do give you negative 6, but it won't be minus 5. So you can only leave it as x times x squared minus 6x minus 5. So the answer is A. You're unable to factor x squared minus 6x minus 5. Okay, 38, we're factoring again. I'm going to tell you the glide and slide method. 5 times 6 is 30. Find the factors of 30. That will give you 7, 15 times 2, 3 times 10, 3 times 10. So it should be x plus 10, x minus 3, because we want it to be positive 7. Now that you have the 5, you got to divide by 5. And you notice you have a fraction, so you're going to have to move that 5 next to the x. So it's 5x minus 3. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so it's x plus 2. And so this is a glide and slide method. So it's 5x minus 3. The factors are 5x minus 3 and x plus 2. So the answer is D. Okay, 41, we have the square root. And I'm going to rewrite 144 since 12 squared equals 144. So you have 12 squared. M to the 6 is m times m times m times m times m. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 6. Now square root has an index of 2. So you're interested in getting groups of 2. So you notice we get 3 groups of 2. So when we get the square root of 12 squared, it's going to be 12. And the square root of m squared is m. The square root of m squared is m. So that's another m. And then the square root of m squared. So it's 12m to the power 3. So the answer is C. So when I say get the square root of m squared, when I say get the square root of m squared, that's just going to be m. It's just one of these m's. And so it's going to be m times m times m. And we have 3 groups, so that's going to be m to the power 3. Now, the quickest way that you can do this also is just divide by the index. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, so it's going to be 3m to the power 3, and then you have the square root of 12 squared, which gives you 12. So we have to simplify the square root of 25x to the 36. So we know that the square root of 25 is 5. 36 is even, and our index is 2, so all you have to do is divide 36 by 2. So you have x to the power 18. So what does it simplify to? 5 times x to the power 18. What is the square root of 100? X to the power 36. Once again, the index is 2, and we know that the square root of 100 is 10. And remember, since the index is 2, 36 divided by 2 is 18. So the square root of x to the 36 is going to be x to the 18. So the answer is B. 48, what is the square root of 196? The square root of 196, and then you have x to the 16th. Now, if you want, you can always use your calculator if you want to. Square root of 196, which should be 14. So you have 14. And remember that you have x to the 16th. 16th is divisible by 2. So you have x to the power 8. So the square root of x to the 16th is x to the 8th. So your answer is C. 50. Which expression is equivalent to this in lowest terms? Now we know that the square root of 36 is 6. We know that 8 is divisible by 2. But the power 27 isn't divisible by 2. Now we do know that 28 is divisible by 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this. We have 36 times x to the 8th, y to the 26th times y, and then z to the 28th. Because I know that y to the 26th times y gives you y to the 27th. Now I can find the square root of 36, which is 6. And we have x to the power 8. And we know that the index is 2, so all you have to do is divide. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the square root of x to the 8 is x to the 4th. 26 is divisible by 2. So it's 13. So it's going to be y to the power 13. And 28 is divisible by 2. So that's z to the 14th power. Now the dilemma is, what do you do with the y? That's correct. You leave it in the radical. So it's going to be 6 times x to the power 4 times y to the power 13, z to the power 14 square root of y. So your answer is 52. We want to simplify this, and now that we have the index of 3, we're looking for the third root. So I have 40 x to the 5th divided by 125 x, and then we have y to the 6th. So I'm going to simplify. I know that 40 over 125 simplifies to 8 over 25. 25. And I know that x to the 5th divided by x gives you x to the 4th. And I know that y to the 6th stays in the denominator. Now I know that I can find the cube root of 8. Because remember that 8 is the same thing as 2 to the power 3. So it's 2 times 2 times 2. So the cube root of 8 is 2. $25. 25, we're going to have to leave it like that. So we have the cube root of 25. And then we can't find the cube root of y to the 6th, which is y times y times y, y times y times y. So the cube root of y to the third is y. And then we have the cube root of y to the third again is y, so it's going to be y squared. Unfortunately, we have x to the fourth, so I'm going to have to rewrite it as x to the third power times the cube root of x. And I know the cube root of x to the third power, so that's 2x times the cube root of x over y squared over the cube root of 25. Now you notice our answer is not there. What you have to do is you have to rationalize the denominator. In other words, normally you don't want the root to be in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply times the cube root of 5, cube root of 5. So we have 2x times the cube root of 5x. Now, 25 times 5 gives you 125, and the cube root of 125 is 5. So our denominator is going to be 5y squared. So your answer is D. Because 25 times 5 is 125. The cube root of 125 is 5. So that's how you simplify. And what I just finished doing is called rationalizing the denominator. Which expression is equivalent? Now, we're saying they're going to both be the same. Square root of 32 minus 3x square root of 2 plus 3 square root of 8. Okay, I know that 32 is 16 times 2. So square root of 16 times the square root of 2. Minus 3x times the square root of 2. Plus 3 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, because 4 times 2 is 8. So what is the square root of 16? That's 4 square root of 2 minus 3x square root of 2 plus square root of 4 is 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. You have 6 square root of 2. Okay, you're going to add the ones that are alike. So you have 4 plus 6 gives you 10 square root of 2. These two are the same. They're similar. It's like you're combining like terms. Minus 3x square root of 2. And so your answer is D. So we got to write this in the most simplest form. So the most simplest form will be the square root of 2 x squared y over 3x cubed y squared. So you have, we know that x squared divided by x cubed is x in the denominator, and then y over y squared is y. So you have the square root of 2x, no, the square root of 2 over 3xy. So now I have the square root of 2 in the numerator, and I have the square root of 3xy in the denominator. I'm going to rationalize this. So it's going to be times the square root of 3xy times the square root of 3xy. And when we do that, you notice that you get 3 times 3 is 9. X times x is x squared, and then y times y is y squared, but you still got to get the square root. And then in the numerator, you have 6xy. So what is the square root of 9x squared y squared? It's going to be 3xy, and in the numerator, it's the square root of 6xy. So your answer will be C. And once again, what we did here is we call rationalizing the denominator. You have to multiply times the square root of 3xy on the numerator and also in the denominator. For 58, it's asking for you to describe the possible rational roots. will be the factors of the constant over the factors of the leading coefficients. In this case, it's going to be plus or minus 2 over plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1. So what are the possibilities? Plus or minus 2, plus or minus 1. So what you want to do, you want to try either 2 or 1 using synthetic division and see if it's a root. So if you notice, I typed in x to the power 3 minus 2x squared minus x plus 1 into the graphing calculators. And if I zoom in, you can see the actual roots. We have x equals negative 1. We have x equals 1. And we have x equals 2. So if you want to verify, you can just use what we say synthetic division. So we have 1, negative 1, and it's going to be 1, negative 2, negative 1, 2, 1, negative 2, negative 1, 2. So we drop the 1. Negative 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 1, negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And that's where the mistake was. We have negative 3. Negative 1 times negative 3 is 3. It's 2. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, so that's 0. So that would be a root. And if we tried 1, we had 1, negative 3, 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So the remainder is 0. And then, of course, the last one is x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 2. So it does check. So we figured out the rational roots, and we also figured out the zeros. X equals negative 1, x equals 1, and x equals 2.